Okay, this is a video that gives some features of my class progress and specifically is showcasing some of the newest updates. Even those of you that maybe are already a little bit familiar with this website, as you know, I update the site pretty regularly, so I hope that you get a chance to watch this video and see some of the new powerful features that have been added just over the past couple of weeks. For those of you not familiar, My Class Progress primarily is a vehicle for giving assessments and then quickly and easily using those results from those assessments in a meaningful way. The primary vehicle for assessing students is quizzes. Each quiz is aligned to one of your standards, which are already uploaded into the website. You can create questions, and those will automatically be categorized by standard. Especially for math and science, for a lot of the grade levels, there's already a good number of questions created for you to use. Once you have enough questions to give a quiz, you don't actually have to go in and pick which questions you want to use. The program's going to automatically and somewhat randomly select questions. That way, as you give redos, you're able to, the student's going to get a different presentation of the quiz each time and get different questions each time. And that way, you're not having to spend a lot of time building new tests over and over again, and your students aren't getting the exact same test over and over again. Once you have enough questions to give a quiz, assigning the quiz is really easy. You just go to Task and then Assign Work. And once you're there, you'll be able to see each student can have up to 5 assignments at a time. You can assign quizzes from here, and you're also able to create tasks. I know that some teachers create tasks that are like certain pages in a textbook. I personally have uploaded several different Khan Academy modules. That's what all of these are that you can assign to a student. And you can assign it just by drag and drop. I'm going to assign myself a quiz, and these are all my standards. So I'm going to assign myself the Comparing Real Numbers quiz. That's one of my 8th grade standards. So when the students log in, and they just log in with their first name and their student ID, they're able to access that quiz instantly. This is what the student dashboard looks like. And we'll talk more about this in a second. You can see the quiz that I assigned myself is right there. So I'm just going to click it, and it's going to take me straight to that quiz. So I can go through here and answer some questions, and as you can see, all the questions are supposed to model what TCAP's going to look like. A pretty cool new feature is any word, let's say irrational, that a student doesn't know, they can add that word as they're taking the test, and this is their way of identifying to you and accountability for themselves of what vocab words they don't understand. And they can add as many different words as they want to. When they're done with their quiz and they hit submit, it's going to automatically grade it. You can see I made a 0. I only answered 2 of the questions, so I obviously didn't do too well. But I can also see down here the words that I have selected that I didn't understand. So you can see here's irrational. I didn't understand the word irrational. And if I click that word, it's automatically going to pull up a definition for me that I can look at. And as a teacher, you're going to be able to see what words your students said they didn't understand. And this way you can go back in a small group and say, hey, all 4 of you said you had a hard time understanding what the word average means. So we're going to talk about that for a minute. Students are going to see all of their quiz grades here, and they're separated in terms of almost there. These are quiz grades that they're not quite mastered on, but they're really close. Then they're going to see the quizzes or the standards that they need a lot of help with, that they haven't done well on at all. They'll be able to see the quizzes that they've mastered, and then lastly, you'll see the quizzes that they haven't taken yet. For any of these quizzes, the student can click that quiz, and not only is it going to give them their grade, but it's going to give them a breakdown of what were the kinds of questions that you missed. How did you do on estimating square roots? How did you do with placing numbers on a number line? How did you do with inequalities? This gives them a little bit more detailed view of what their strengths and weaknesses are and what they need to focus on. You're also going to be able to see a list of all of the things that they can do to work on to get better at that standard. And then they can indicate to you what the reasons were that they missed the questions that they did. And they can even type in and write to you why they missed the questions. What did they feel were their strengths? What did they feel were their weaknesses? So maybe they might say estimating square roots was a strength. And then maybe they'll write something into you about what their weakness was as well. So you can see here's my feedback from estimating square roots. Now you as a teacher can see those results. If you go to quizzes and quiz results, here are my students' results for comparing real numbers, that same quiz we just looked at. And so we can see here which students, what their actual grade was on the quiz, and then we can also see a breakdown by category or the types of questions. If you hover over a student's name, you'll be able to see the exact quiz they took. Keep in mind that each student has a slight variation of this, and you can see which questions they missed. You're also able to sort by skill. So let's say that I'm feeling pretty good with my students' grades on this standard, but I do want to target students that struggled with estimating square roots. So I can order from least to greatest for estimating square roots. And then I can also say only show me the students that were below basic on estimating square roots. You can see these are people looking at this column here. These are all the people that were below basic on estimating square roots. Now, you may want to assign them work on square roots. So I'm going to go to assign work, and it's going to bring up a window for me that is just for those students. You'll see this list here, just the kids that were below basic on estimating square roots. And so I feel like assigning those students work on estimating square roots. So I hit apply all, and now every student has that assignment assigned to them. When they log in, that's what they'll see. You also can get a bigger picture. There's a new grade book in My Class Progress that's really awesome. It does take a second to load. This is going to give you a view of all of your students' grades for all of the standards, but it's going to organize it by priority. So we can see here, the orange standards are the standards that kids clearly have some understanding of, and they're just a little bit short of being at mastery. After it presents you those standards, it's going to show you the standards that students are struggling with. Those are going to be highlighted in red. These are the standards that kids are really behind on. And the program takes it a step further, and it automatically recommends small groupings based on those scores. If a kid is struggling, if they're really failing, they probably need extra work with you. Just a book work or time on the laptop probably isn't going to be enough. So I can see here are the 6 kids that are really struggling with contextual unit rates. So definitely, literally, tomorrow when I go into class, I'm going to pull these 6 kids aside in class, and I'm going to work with them on this standard. You're able to see for every one of your standards what those groupings are and what each student is struggling the most with. Now, let's say that you want to just assign work based on what they need the most help with, what the biggest priority is. What a laptop is going to be able to remediate. That's what this column is. So this student has a 64. They clearly are getting over half the questions, but they have some misconceptions. So if you notice, when I go to, let's take a look at task real quickly. Right now, none of my 8th graders have anything assigned to them except for the few students that I just assigned estimating square roots in the previous example. When I come back over to my grade book and I go to my 8th grade class, if I hit assign attention task, it's going to automatically assign all of those students work based on what they are most likely to benefit from with online work or textbook work or something that's not necessarily direct teacher intervention. So each of these students now has work assigned to them that's going to be the most meaningful, the biggest bang for your buck, the lowest hanging fruit. You don't have to go through and figure all that out. It's just going to do it for you. With 2 clicks of a button, you can make sure every kid has work assigned to them based on what they need help with. And you can even figure out what your small groups need to be so that you know what you're doing in the classroom. And this frees up your time so you can just focus on, teaching. Lastly, you're able to see your students' feedback, those virtual data folders. You're able to see their reflections by standard. So I can look at students for comparing real numbers, and I can see what were the reasons that students are missing questions. I can scroll through and just look at each student, or I can say, show me all of the students that said that there was too much reading involved. And here are the students that struggled with the endurance, the amount of reading. So I can pull those students aside if I want to and work with them. I can also mouse over their names, and it's going to show me the written feedback that they've given me. So I can see what this student was saying as a strength and as a weakness. If they've listed vocabulary, I can see what that vocabulary was here as well. So this gives you a lot of access into what was going on in the minds of your students while they were taking that test. There are obviously a lot of other features that My Class Progress can do. We didn't even talk about benchmarks, which allow you to give a test over a lot of standards at once. This is a pretty useful tool for language arts teachers. I really just wanted to give you an update of some of the newest features inside of My Class Progress. So I hope you enjoy, and if you have any questions, please let me know.